Hi,
Hey
I'm
guys, it's
Chelsea with
Melissa.
Rolling in the Dough AZ, and welcome to the Cookie Chat.
We're just your basic bakers letting loose and keeping it real. If you are joining us on YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below. If you're joining us live today on Instagram, hello guys. We're going to be answering questions, everything live. Really quick, right off the bat, we want to have a couple of announcements. If you guys didn't see in stories, somebody's birthday's coming up this
Getting
Friday.
older.
Chelsea, you want to announce what you have
Yeah,
in store
so
for
Friday
them on Friday?
is my 32nd birthday. Scary. But we are joining together with the wonderful Krista of the Domestic Cookie, and that's who our merchandise is through, and she has graciously allowed us to do a little birthday sale. So at noon Eastern Standard Time, our Cookie Chat merchandise will be 32% off for 32 minutes. So if you're hoping to snag one of our long sleeve tees or our black little collar, the Cookie Chats, those will be on sale Friday for 32 minutes. And we'll post reminders. Thank you.
We will. And that's Friday,
Yes.
February 25th.
Right.
Is when that's happening. So we are so excited to celebrate Miss Chelsea, and so generous of her, as usual, to have everybody participate. So the other announcement that we had is we are anxiously awaiting, it should be live any moment.
Yay!
We have joined Patreon, guys. Yay! And I won't spend too long on it, but if you don't know much about Patreon, it's basically a way for creators like Chelsea and I, for you guys to just kind of show support and appreciation in a monetary standpoint. But true to Chelsea and I's form, we love giving you guys content. We will continue to provide free content. This just kind of helps give you guys a little bit of stuff. So there are different levels that you can join, and you will get things in return. But it's just a way for you guys to just, help support us. So we will share more about that in our stories when that goes live. And without further ado, guys, we are so excited to bring on Miss Renee.
Was like, I'm working on it. Sweet Cheeks.
I know, I'm trying to find it. Sweet Cheeks. Okay, so I am sending Miss Renee the invitation. Yay!
Hi.
She's here. Yay! Hi,
real.
Renee.
Yes.
I know we're real. I think it's
It
warmer
is. It's
where
like
you are than
almost
where
70
I am
degrees
today.
out. We've been soaking in the sun because it's going to snow like 10 inches on Friday. So we're true New England weather. You cannot predict it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah, I don't know how you do it. I know I'm waiting out. The snow is going to hit any minute here. But Renee, we are so excited. We have been talking about having you on, since last year. I feel like we've been trying to work this out and plan it. So if you guys don't know, Sweet Cheeks by Renee, who are you?
Tell us.
But Renee, I know. But Renee, can you tell us just really quickly a brief background on like when you got into cookies, how you got into cookies, and kind of like a synopsis
so
of
it's
your
really
journey
kind of
thus
funny.
far.
I kind of stumbled into cookies. I went to school out of high school for interior design. I went to school in Boston. While I was working there, I started working at a supermarket bakery, and I taught myself how to decorate cakes. I left Wentworth after 2 years for interior design. I decided to go to school for education. I moved home. I took the 6-year path to a 2-year degree. And during that time,
we've all been there.
During that time, and I got my degree in education. And during that time, I was teaching myself how to decorate cakes. I was working at different jobs decorating cakes. And then I met my husband. We got married, and we got pregnant right away. And when I had my son, I just had this like desire to not be someone else's employee. I wanted to stop making stuff with their sugar, with their time. Like my product was not my product. And that was really kind of aggravating me. So I ended up quitting my job. My son was 4 weeks old. I started Sweet Cheeks, and that's when I started the cookies, because I knew that at this time, it was like 6.5 years ago, there was like this new niche of like things that was happening. So luckily I had the background of cakes. So I kind of had that. I just had to, perfect a royal icing recipe, which everybody knows is the biggest pain in the butt ever. I had to, come up with a cookie recipe that I changed over the years. And now, 6.5 years later, I barely do any cakes, and I'm strictly cookies and cookie focused, wedding cakes here and there, and then classes and traveling. And it's just developed over this 6.5 years into what it is today.
It's truly amazing. I was going back, if you guys saw, Chelsea and I both had the very difficult task of picking a bake of the week, as we do every week around Renee. And I was like, ugh. So yeah. But it was so fun to go back through and see your evolution and your journey just in your cookies. I love that on any cookier, but yours in particular, it's just, it's really, really beautiful. And I don't know if you're seeing all of these, Renee, but there's so many others in interior design, and so many
cool.
Excited that you're here and sharing a similar journey.
So cool.
Oh, yay. Okay, well, we were chatting earlier before we got on here, and you guys know the topic today. If you don't, welcome. It's not only Renee here, but we're talking cookier etiquette. And this topic kind of organically came up. We had already had Renee scheduled to come live with us, and Chelsea and I are like, ooh, we should have Renee talk about this with us. And Renee said, yes, please. So thank you guys for sending in a lot of thoughts. We've talked to, it's not just the three of us that we've talked to so many cookiers and really tried to comb together kind of some top 5-ish or so topics that we want to cover today. Chelsea and I might cover additional ones at another time. But Chelsea, do you kind of want to kick us off with some thoughts before we jump into the first question?
I have had the pleasure of speaking to so many different cookiers at different levels. And this is kind of, I feel like, an ongoing topic that all of us, no matter where you are in the journey, it's always in the back of our mind somehow. So you're either in the beginning stages, which we'll talk about on what is the proper etiquette, or you're the one experiencing the pause and, is that right? Do I say something? So please keep in mind that all of us have been guilty at some point or another of one of these, because the more you know, the better you do. So that's where we want to bring this. We're coming at this from the position of educating, because there's never a cookier guide that you just get and it's like, here's how to be the perfect cookier. We're all learning down this journey. So like Melissa said, we took a few questions that seem to be at the top of most cookiers' minds, whether, again, beginner or veteran. So Renee, we would love to hear your take on the first question. Yes. One of the biggest ones was about copying creative work. Is this ever appropriate? And maybe what are the measures regarding newer cookiers? What do we do in these situations?
It's so broad, just because in my personal opinion, let's just black and white, let's say someone takes an order that I've made and they recreate it for their own to sell. I have no problem with that. You're putting yourself out there. You're putting yourself on social media. I have zero problem with that. The problem lies in taking complete creative control and complete creative ownership. At that point, then we have a little bit of an issue, because if you did not come up with a design and you saw it and you know where you saw it from, then you absolutely should give credit where credit is due. There's no reason why you shouldn't do that. I know that some people, I think they maybe want to portray that they came up with a design, and to give that away kind of maybe hits their ego a little bit. And I get it. But at the end of the day, if you did not create it, if you did not come up with the design, then it is not yours to do without some sort of credit. That's all. That's literally all you need to do, is just tag, credit, all that stuff. Now, I know some people have issue with it, like later on, like they feel like if they credit it here, and then 3 weeks down the line, they do the same design for a different order, they might not feel that they need to credit. We're going to get in. I feel like you should still credit, because at the end of the day, what you post in 3 weeks is going to get different views than what you posted 3 weeks ago. It's not your design. At the end of the day, it's still not your design. All you have to do is tag. There's nothing wrong with taking I love it when I get a tag and I see your take on my design. I love it. So A, you want to give credit, but B, the people who created it want to see what you're making.
Right.
Like, we want to be out there. And if anything, it's going to help you, because 9 times out of 10, if I see it, I'm sharing it because I think it's amazing. Let's just help each other out here. There's room at the creative table for everybody, honestly.
And I have a question on that, because I know I've experienced it firsthand.
Yeah.
Is when customers will send you pictures, sometimes they will crop out, like, they'll get it from Pinterest or Google. There's been times where I'm like, I'll take like a concept from that or one of the cookies out of there. They're like, oh my gosh, I love this happy birthday plaque. It's like, okay, I don't know who the original creator is on this.
Yeah.
I know if anyone has ever experienced this, what I try and do is you can Google search an image.
Yeah.
So I will toggle over to Google and search that image. Sometimes it comes up like 17 different cookie artists have done it to try and find. What is your take on that? How do you feel people should move forward?
That's a really good point, because I have actually done that before, where I never saved a picture. I remember scrolling through my Instagram and seeing something and taking a mental note. I have a really photographic memory. And I remember taking a mental note, and months or whatever go down the line, and I think, ooh, I want to make this design. I remember seeing it, and I'm going to make it. And what I did is I could not find the post. Could not find it for the life of me. But instead of just posting it and being like, I'm done with it, I posted it and I said, this is not my work. This is not my original design. Please, if you know who created this original design, please let me know so I can tag them properly. And that's what, people do their thing on Instagram. They find it so quick. And they initially put it in there and they said, hey, I think this is hers. And I saw it. Yep, this is it. And I edited my caption and I said, this design was inspired by so-and-so. And like, if you're just being honest, like, just be honest with it. I feel like there's no issue with that. And if you, like, people find my designs all the time. Actually, I had someone, it was a huge page, and I have no problem saying it because she was super kind about it. So it's Haley's Cakes. Yeah. So she created one of my greenery sets. And she didn't tag me in it because she probably received a photo of my work and she didn't see it was mine, and that was fine. Someone had written in her comments like, hey, this is super nice exchange. She's like, oh my gosh, yes it is, and whatever. And then she tagged me. Like, we've all done it. Like, we've all been there. And there are situations that aren't just people being nasty. It's they genuinely don't know.
Right.
So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. What is your take adding on to that? Because again, there's so many times these come up, especially when you're just beginning and learning sets. Yeah. What is your take when it comes to character cookies? Because let's be real, there's only so many ways we can all do Tinkerbell. There's only so many ways you can do one of the trolls. Where does that lie?
I feel like, well, if you really want to get real deep in it, technically, we're not supposed to do those.
Correct. If you didn't know that, there are certain brands and companies that will flag your stuff because it's trademarked. So, for example, I do not do LOL dolls because I had a whole run-in with that. So, I'll do concepts.
And it's an easy way to get out of them because a lot of people don't want to do that. And I would say too, I'm kind of cautious sometimes. Like if I'm doing a Disney inspired set or something like that, I don't tag Disney. Like like I'm not gonna. So be thoughtful. Like it can be great if a brand reshares your stuff, but if it's a brand is very harsh on that stuff, leave out the hashtags, or just save that for like your personal website or something maybe.
I feel like it's just like everybody can run their business the way they want to run their business. Right. And I'll talk about this at CookieCon. Like it's your business to run how you want. You just also have to understand that however you run your business could run into consequences. That's it. If you choose to do character cookies, there are really only so many ways that you can do a character. If you directly saw something and you directly copied it, obviously you should tag the original creator. But that's up to you. For me, I personally just choose not to do character cookies anymore. I did them. I've done them. And if I can avoid them, I do. Because again, like you said, there's really so many ways that you can go about that. And it's a risk for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done, character cookies are not my jam, but I did a frozen one once where it was alluding to. So for instance, it was an Elsa braid, but she had like a hat on. So, or a lot of people will do like the silhouettes, but not do the detailed face. You see that a lot. A few questions I want to hit really quick. People are asking, how do you know if a character is trademarked? It's a Google,
like anything in a movie is trademarked.
If you see it on TV, see it in a movie, if you see it in a book, it's trademarked. If
Correct.
It's
Harry Potter,
y'all
trademarked.
You know it. He knows it. It's a character. It's trademarked.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. There have been a couple of questions too. Do you say designed by or inspired by? I do think those are two different things. Personally, I think that like if you're copying the exact cookie design, then that is original design by. For instance, I know downtown. I always say it wrong.
Megan,
I always say it in my head. You know who I'm talking about, though. I think that she was the original creator of the balloon wet on wet circle with the happy birthday across it that everybody does. That's a direct design. I mean, that's been copied 1,000 times. That's a direct design. Renee, I actually was inspired by yours on a baby shower set. You have a like an under the sea one, and I remember it was the first time that I had seen so many layered textures in different ways, like the stencil on the, and I remember flagging that, and that was more of an inspired by. I didn't copy your exact stencils. It was just that idea of like having it all layered together.
I think you're exactly right. Design, it's an exact design. Even if you've changed the colors, but the design itself is exact, the original designer, just tag the original designer. If you're taking something and you're literally inspired by it. So for instance, and this goes way back, the parchment crinkle paper technique.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I could talk about this thing all day long because I believe I was the first person to do that 3-4 years ago. Okay. I wasn't the first person to put texture on a cookie, but I believe I was the first person to use that particular technique. It is still used today, and it's evolved in 3-4 years. I still get tagged in the exact design that started it, which is the long hexagon, parchment in the back, bouquet in the top. Designed by Sweet Cheeks by Renee.
Yeah.
But then people will take it and they've taken that parchment paper technique and they put it on a different design, or it's just like a completely different thing. But the technique itself, they still tag me as inspired by, which I appreciate every time. Again, maybe I also want to put this out there. I might not have been the first one. I don't know. I just know that I literally sat here at a table and went, I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it on there and we're going to see what happens. And then it just it took off. Did someone do it before me? Maybe. It took off from that particular cookie. So you never know. Like you never know what's going to hit. But that I do get a lot of inspired by because it just evolved so
much.
Yeah. Real quick, one other point on this topic before I want us to go ahead and move along to the next one is, if it is the design that you see from the cookie cutter shops, and maybe we can ask some of our cookie cutter shop friends if anybody wants to weigh in on this. I know a lot of them are created in Procreate. Some of them work with other cookiers to like do actual sample designs of stuff. Do we all have an opinion on that? Personally, I feel like if it's put out there for the sale of the product, then it's kind of free game. Oh, yeah. But tag the cookie cutter shop.
I feel like you should tag the cookie cutter shop regardless.
Yeah.
People want to see it. People who are seeing your photos want to see who the cutter's from. I think we're going to discuss some of that later about making sure you read captions and stuff like that before asking questions. But people want to see where the cutter came from because maybe they want it. It helps the cutter company because then you're helping their product. But if it's out there and they use the design, I don't see why not. As long as you're tagged, just tag. That's like the name of the game here. Just tag. Like.
Yeah. And I don't personally feel, I've had multiple people reach out and ask if they can do my design like ahead. For me personally, like that's sweet. And I'm like, yeah, I want to see it. And I don't mind having that engagement.
Right.
But for me, that is not a must. You do not need to come and ask me
Well, what
for
is the
permission
take
before.
on that?
But
Because
when you
I
do,
have in the very beginning of cooking, I didn't know because again, there was no open discussion like this. I would reach out and say, hey, my customer is adamant that this is like their dream set. Is it okay if I use it and I give you permission and tag you? I've actually had both recipients or people reciprocate both ways. Some said, oh my gosh, don't have to ask. I love it. And then others said, please do not use my design. I pride myself on having a custom set for each of my customers that they're not going to find anywhere else. So please go back to your customer and say no. So I have had both.
Interesting.
Yes.
I find that interesting only because if you're putting it out on your Instagram, your portfolio, it's free game.
Yeah, they said it was their customers, that they use it for their customers, like
but
not
are you
for
local to that person?
What was that?
Were you local to that person?
No. And I've had this, like, I will say.
So that I was just going to say, that brings me to a topic that we all talked about too, is like, I also think that there's a difference between copying exact designs if it's somebody local to you. In that perspective, that's where I start to, if it's coming in contact with my monies, then that to me is different. And I think that can be where we're going to get into our next topic is classes and copying work for classes. Is I think if just for new cookiers, or if you're an OG and you're doing this, like I think between the three of us, we all agree, you've got our votes, that do not copy exact work of somebody that is local to you, because that truly is an aspect of stealing that customer, or the potential of stealing that customer. But I think, but going back to Chelsea, what you're saying, if it, I'm kind of, I guess if you want to err on the side of caution, go ahead and reach out. For me personally, just if anybody wants to like do inspired by any designs I have, you don't have to reach out.
That's how I feel about it. I get people that ask me all the time, but I think that there's two reasons why they ask. One, they're just being polite. They're being totally kind, and I have no problem.
Yeah, I didn't want to come off as like.
No. Yeah. I think being just polite, and I think that's absolutely fine. Two, it's a nice way to start a conversation with someone that you might want to start a conversation with. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I have no problem with that. I would say 100% of the time, if you ask me to use it, I will say yes. All I ask is that you either tag me in the comments. People were asking here, do you have to tag or just write inspired by in the comments? Either, I would say in the comments, so inspired by. If you want to tag us, great. If you at least would just want to put it in the comment or the caption. That's fine too. But you don't have to ask, as long as you are giving me some sort of credit one way or another, because I want to.
Yeah, and I would be cautious too about how many things you're asking related to that. If you're asking, can I do this design, and then asking details about exactly how that is created, that's getting into the territory of like, that's a class, and that like that.
Yeah, no, I feel like there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking if they can make the design, but that's your job. Your job is to figure out how to do it. It's not
your market.
Right. They get creative. I just actually had someone message me, and they sent me a picture of my watercolor class, and then they sent me a picture of cookies that I had made later using some of the watercolor skills that I have. And she wanted to know, if she took this class, can she make these exact cookies that I made? And I told her, no. You will get the skills and the techniques from the watercolor class. My job is to teach you those things. And your job is to take that and utilize them with your talent and your skills. Eventually you're going to make your own mark. You're going to come up with your own techniques, but I'm teaching you the baseline, and then you go and take that. It won't come out exactly. I will never say that it's going to come out exactly, because you are different than I am.
Yes.
So I feel like that's something that we need to like make clear too. Like, I cannot teach you exactly how to do it and it's going to come out exactly like this. We're different people.
Andy has shared that from Cookies about her classes that she loves for people. And Andy, if you're on here, please make sure that I'm saying this right. that she loves when people take the technique, like for example, her cups, the drink class that she did with the painting. She loves seeing it replicated in the sets and making your set just more elevated. You can charge more, the technique, but do not take that class and then say, hey guys, I've learned how to paint this margarita. Now I'm going to teach you how to paint this margarita. So what is your take on that part? Mm-hmm. Because that's what Melissa, I know, has heard a lot from people, is taking that exact class and being like, I mastered it. Let me teach you.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like if you've taken my class, I want you to be able to take, you're paying to be in my class. Mm-hmm. I want you to be able to take those skills and utilize them for your business in the aspect of selling your cookies.
Yes.
Your customers. Don't ever take a class and then turn around and reteach it for profit, because now you're dipping into my monies. Like, that's not okay.
That's going to be a new trademark. Don't touch my money.
Don't touch my money.
You did not come up with those techniques. You did not teach those techniques organically, or you did not learn them organically. You paid to learn them. You learn them from someone else. You don't get to reteach it. If you come up with your own thing and your own techniques, go for it. It's also the same as, and I've had this conversation, someone has taken my floral class and then they love it and they don't mean anything by it. They're not thinking anything until I discuss it with them. They go on their stories and they show themselves decorating their flower with using my techniques and tagging me, hey, using my techniques I learned or whatever. And they're showing the entire process. You're giving away my lesson for free. Like that. So
that's true.
And that they don't see it until you discuss it with them, and they're usually perfectly fine. Like, totally understand. I ran into this a few weeks ago and they were like, I am so sorry. It's fine. I know you don't mean anything by it. I know you're not trying to do anything rude by it, but just like, don't take someone's things and put it on a free story.
And I think some of that's hard because the era that we're in is so content heavy that I think some of this is just people are purely like unknowingly like, this is content, this is content, this is content. And it's just not everything is clicking. So hopefully, guys, this discussion is helping.
I have heard of people also, I know for us, there's so many digital classes, but what if it comes down to a lot of people work, like for example, I work with an art studio local here and I teach decorating classes. So I'll do whatever the design is, post it and say, buy tickets here. What is your take on, let's say I created a class and Melissa was like, oh my gosh, I want to teach that same class in Texas. I love your work. She takes my same cookies, same cookie cutters, my same layout, flat lay, takes the picture and then sells classes for Texas.
So, I mean, your different customer base, which is what we're talking about, but it's still kind of shady, and I wouldn't necessarily go for it. I just feel as though there's nothing wrong with being inspired. Let's go back to the inspired word, where you can take that, but create your own technique. Don't take, like when I talk about my classes, if you've taken any of my digital classes, I get down to the nitty gritty on how to hold your wrist, when to apply pressure and when to not apply pressure. Like, it is these are things that I needed to hear when I was learning myself and I was teaching myself how to make flowers. So I get down to the nitty gritty. If you go and you try to teach that class to other people, a completely different customer base, and you're using the same wording and stuff like that, you didn't do that organically. You didn't teach it to yourself. So I don't feel like it's shady. At the end of the day, will I know about it because you're in a different state teaching different people? Maybe not. But I feel like it's just like, I wouldn't do it.
I think of when you say that from Bring It On, like platters, nationals, like I'm getting you everything you need.
Yeah.
We do have some questions related to the classes. Somebody asked, I'm hoping to get into offering some virtual classes. I really want to offer multiple courses breaking down common techniques. In your opinion, is that something I should avoid doing?
I don't feel like that's something to avoid doing, as long as the common techniques are, that one's rough. I feel like as though you are if you have not taken a class,
Mhm.
if you've learned it and then maybe you've come up with different ways of doing common techniques, because there are multiple ways to skin a cat. So if you come up with a different way of a common technique that you have found that works and that you have not specifically paid to learn or found a tutorial on, then I feel like that's fine. But if it's something that you saw on Instagram scrolling through and you're like, ooh, I like that, I'm going to teach it, that's not okay.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't want to like deter people from making online classes. I do think there are so many out there, and I do think that it's a great avenue in our community, especially to be able to just give people who can't do like full-time cookies or something like that, like an avenue to expand their business. But yeah, I think that, and not everybody wants to learn from the same teacher, you know, like different people prefer different teachers. So, you know, as far as like teaching icing consistency, I don't think that's proprietary, you know, or like how you cut your bag, or, you know, like those are things that all three of us were to show somebody how to prep icing, color icing, and cut bags and do an outline and flood,
Absolutely.
we would all have different approaches to it. So I do think there is value in like having different teachers teach the same things. But I think, yeah, if you are claiming that you are like, and I do think that there's different ways to do florals. I mean, how Renee does florals is different than how Kristen from Kristen's Cookie does florals. You know, they're very different. They're all gorgeous florals. I know that Andy's doing florals in her upcoming class, and it's all, I will buy all of them because I love florals and I will want to learn every single different way. So I think what we're talking about specifically are things where it's like you're taking the exact designs and images and even outline of classes and then going over and selling the exact same package is what we kind of want to clarify. And I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, people do that. We wouldn't be talking about it if you
all could see some of our DMs, you'd be like, is this real life?
There's a lot of people commenting. I'm reading about like lesser known cookiers or not OG or not bigger cookiers about like discovering techniques, and they feel as though they cannot claim it as their own. And I hate that you feel that way, because the amount of followers that you have doesn't dictate the talent that you have.
Right.
And if we have all, listen, like I said, with the parchment paper technique, I don't know for a fact that I came up with it first. All I know is that I sat here literally with parchment paper and I went, I'm going to try this and see what happens. And it worked out. I dropped something on one of my cookies one time and it made the coolest look. And I went, like, I gotta make, like, everybody, there's a million of us, okay? If I'm going to come up with the same technique as you across the country and we might not ever speak. Like there's a new product that's out there that I have been working on to put out myself that stemmed from the parchment thing, and they came up with it first. The product itself first. I did not say anything to anybody. They did not steal it from me. It just stems from the parchment paper the parchment paper crinkle technique. And I'm so upset about it, and not upset necessarily with them, but for myself for not having coming out with it sooner. Because now, when and if I do come out with this product, it might come across as me taking or me copying, and which is not the case because we're two different people, and people know that I started something over here and they started over here. It's two different things, but it's still something that I have to consider because I hate saying this. This makes me sound so pretentious, and I'm really not, I promise you. I have more followers, and I don't ever want to seem like I'm taking something away from someone who has less followers.
Right.
Is that I would never do that. I would never do that. So it's something that I have to consider going forward if I want to pursue it or if I want to try do something a little bit different. So lesser known we're all here. We're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to be successful. So I don't feel like you don't have to claim it. If you literally came up with it on your own before you saw it anywhere else, it's yours. Go for it. Nobody can take that away from you. Just be honest.
Yeah.
Right. And we try, I know on the cookie chat, it's been so nice because our feed is, we follow other cookiers, bakers, cake decorators, just seeing people from all different levels. It's something that I love the most about when I have cookie chat social is that refreshing new designs, because sometimes we all kind of get stuck in that rut of what's new, what's out there. But to see new and fresh inspiration, to me, I'm always like, go! I'm so excited for you. I'm so proud of you because I remember being there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I didn't hit, if you guys have followed the cookie chat, if you're new to it, I didn't hit 10,000 until this past year. And it was like my goal. So it was a huge push. But I mean, I was at 5,000 and less I've been doing this for 5 years. So it wasn't until this, it hasn't even been a full 6 months.
Yeah.
That it kind of skyrocketed. So at any point, an account can just overnight shift and change. We see it all the time here on social media. So don't feel like just because somebody maybe is growing that they still don't appreciate. Like we do Bake of the Week. It's one of our favorite things to find different artists and just share that. So,
and I think we've all been there. I didn't wake up the amount of followers that I have yesterday. Like, we've all been there. It's taking me a while to get to this point. We've all been at the point with like very few followers and trying to make something of yourself. And then again, this is something that I'll discuss at CookieCon. You also have to kind of determine what you want in life. Like, do you want to be a cookie influencer? Go for it. Or are you just trying to cater to the people and make pretty cookies and live your life? That's totally different. You don't really have to worry about all of this stuff. Well, I mean, you kind of do, but you don't really have to worry about it. Like, live your life, make your cookies, like, be happy if that's what makes you happy. We all have different goals and where we want to go.
Yeah. I would also stress to you, a lot of people are asking if you can't find it or if you purely don't know look, there's going to be times when you just purely can't, you just purely can't, and that's fine. And I feel like there's so many times too where I won't even remember, you don't even know. This is the beautiful thing about as you grow your creative muscles is you see things and it just kind of implants and you don't even realize that those things are shaping how and why you're creating things the way that you are. And
it's called influencing for a reason.
But yeah, totally. And so that's it working as it should. And I also want to say too, like, again, copying techniques is how you learn. It is how you grow. Like, I just want to make sure that you guys know we aren't saying don't do it and that you shouldn't. It's just purely like, I just want to reiterate because that's what I had to do and I still do it. And I like do it off to the side.
Yes.
See how
Melissa, I text her all the time. I'm like, hey girl, this is your own cookie, but like, how did you do this? I want to do that.
If you're sitting here and you're thinking to yourself, if you're making a cookie and in your head you're going, this looks very similar to a cookie that I've seen, that there's something already in your brain going, wait a minute, because I'm currently designing a set of cookie cutters, and I designed one. And I drew it out and I sent it out and I wasn't even thinking, and the person that would be printing it for me, she texted me back and she goes, this looks similar to Arlene from Arlene Chua Cookies.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, good point. So I reached out to Arlene and I sent her the picture. I'm like, does this seem similar to your cutters? Because if it's too similar, I'm done. I'll do something different. And we had about it. She's like, no, it's not even close. And I was like, but it triggered something enough that it was a question. If you're questioning it and there's a trigger there, just put it out there. If you're in your head already going, this looks a little similar, then you already know what you need to do.
Right. What happens since we've all done it at some aspect? What is your take on, is it proper to ask another cookier for their recipes, for their pricing sheets, just, hey, I love your cookies, I'm starting out, I need a good recipe, can you please send me your sugar cookie recipe?
I think
if somebody doesn't sell them.
I think it all comes out of a pure place. I don't think anybody's ever coming at it with malice or anything like that. I get it all the time. I in particular sell my recipe. And so if someone does come at me and they say, hey, what's your recipe? First of all, hi.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Second of all, I do offer my recipe on my website if you'd like to check it out. That's how I go about it. But I will say, and like you said, we've all been there, I am going to out myself, okay? A few years ago, I was developing my royal icing recipe. It took me like a couple years, and I just wasn't happy with it, but I was still working with it. It was working. People enjoyed it. And this was before I sold my recipe. I reached out to Maddie from Maddie's Cookies because her icing always looked so perfect. It was so puffy and it was so beautiful. And I just I couldn't understand how she did it. It was driving me nuts. And I asked her, looking back on it, it's cringy, shouldn't have done it. But I've totally been there. I did not end up using that recipe because I tried it and it just didn't work for me. And she was so gracious in telling me what she used. But you shouldn't expect it. Don't ever reach out to a cookier. If you're asking and it comes from a good place, do you offer to sell it? Do you offer to, don't just say, give it to me. Don't just say, can you give it to me? Maybe you say, hey, do you sell your recipe? I'd love to try it, or something along those lines. Or if they say no, take it for face value. There have been way too many people out there that have heard the word no and get not so nice and feel as though that because this person is an influencer that they owe it to you to give you whatever they have. And that's just the case, because if I offer it, if I sell it, it's because I've been working on it and I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it, and I deserve to be able to do that. You don't have to buy it, but I can put it out there. But if I say no and you don't like that answer, oh well. Take it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I've had too many people reach out asking about recipes. There are times that people ask, I guess, more deeper than what I am necessarily comfortable answering. I don't know a specific topic off the top of my head, but I do think sometimes when you are somebody who's more present on social media, I think that we love answering questions as much as we can, but I do think that there can be a level where people start to take advantage of that. And so I think just be aware of that. If you are a person asking questions and if you are a person answering questions, it's okay to politely say no if you are not comfortable. There's an interesting conversation going on regarding sharing pricing in the comments. So different schools of thought on this. If you guys have not yet watched, we have a whole episode on pricing. I think we should probably hit another one because it's just such a hot topic. But you can check that out on our YouTube, or if you're watching on YouTube, I'll link it here. But there's different schools of thought. What are you guys' schools of thought on, like, pricing is different depending on geographically where you are. So the discussion that's happening in comments specifically is some people love sharing pricing with their other local cookiers because that way it's more of like a set pricing model in their area.
I feel as though,
what are y'all's thoughts?
Like, I have no problem like telling people, but the thing is like when I tell people 9 times out of 10, I can get preachy on my soapbox about pricing your worth. And then in the same breath, I probably don't price my worth. So,
do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. So I price very different. Well, not very differently, but I do price differently than some other people. And I feel like when people ask for prices because they want to see what I do, it gives them a baseline, and then they decide, okay, if she charges $6.50 a cookie, I'm gonna charge $6 a cookie. Like, and without ever doing the work. Like, do the work, figure out how much your cookies cost, figure out how much your product costs, do the actual work before ever reaching out to someone. I think that's the biggest thing that people have a problem with. If you ever feel as though big cookiers are saying that they're getting aggravated with people asking questions, it's not necessarily because we're sick of answering them. It's because the resources are out there and you might not be doing the work like you're supposed to do. So I feel like that kind of is where that comes from. I have no problem answering questions, but it can get tedious. So when it comes to the pricing, I talk about how I price. I price at a point where my cookies, if I have 2 dozen cookies and there's 6 different designs, 3 of those designs are going to be super detailed and 3 of those designs are going to be more fairly simple detailed, because the higher detailed ones would be like maybe $10 a cookie and the lower detailed ones would be maybe like $3 a cookie, and then I put it in the middle and I average out. That's how I price mine.
Yeah.
So I don't get an order that's like, I want this and I have to design it off the top of my head and then come up with a price. No, this is what it's going to be. Some of your cookies are going to be really detailed. Some aren't going to be detailed. It makes up for itself.
Yeah.
I just feel as though the pricing thing is because everybody is going to be pricing differently. We are all at different talent levels. We all live in different parts of the country. We all have different goals. It's so hard. It's so hard.
And we hit on that in the pricing episode, is what Melissa charges doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to charge that.
Right.
And what I charge doesn't necessarily mean the person down the street is going to. It kind of, and we talk about it. So if you want to go deeper into down the rabbit hole with us, just the correlation.
I think it can also be hard to, if you're talking about everything pricing the same in a geographical location, it's custom work is custom pricing per person and per skill level. So I think it's understandable to have a range in a general area, which we talk about on the pricing too, is kind of seeing what your median household income is in your area. And we kind of like broke it into like, these are ranges.
Doesn't mean it's holy grail, you guys. It was just a starting point.
No, there was Justine from the Cookie Bank. She said this once. She had spoken to actually someone who was like, I don't know, professor of economics, something. And it came across, she was talking about how all of her customers, that whenever she puts out a price, everybody says yes. And he's like, you're doing it wrong. And she's like, well, what do you mean? Like, I'm busy all the time. I'm booked all the time. And everybody says yes. He goes, yeah, well, then you're doing it wrong. Because if everybody is saying yes, then you're pricing way too low. You need to have a percentage of almost like 25% plus that say no. That's how you know you're in the right gap. Someone had come in here that they need to raise their prices, and they're worried about what that's going to do to their customer base. And I will preach this all day long because I have done it, and I do increase my prices at least once to twice a year. You're going to gain a whole new customer base. You're going to lose some. You are absolutely going to lose some. That's just how it is. Some people won't be able to afford it, and that's not their problem. It's not bad on their parts. It's not bad on your part. It's just the way life is. But you're about to hit a whole new demographic of people that are going to appreciate and come for you. And it's just going to open up your business. And I could go about this all day, literally all day long.
I will say the only thing as far as pricing that I've shared with Melissa, have a hard time with in DMs is don't ask somebody how much they make a year. Or how much you pay in taxes. That question seems to be, and I understand because I am a full-time cookier, and we all are curious on what is it, but I always try and say it's different per household. I share in our full-time baker is that I left corporate America, and my income from cooking makes up for that corporate. So if I wasn't doing cookies, I would be back in corporate. Where some people are like, if I wasn't doing cookies, I'd be doing something else, or a different hobby or different craft.
Yeah.
So that is going to change. But when I say that, I don't mean it in a sense of trying to be rude, but I don't want to share my tax returns with people.
It's also different for everybody because if you are doing like pre-sales or flash sales or whatever, and I'm doing strictly custom work, I am probably making a hell of a lot less money than you are. And I have no problem saying that. Before I started doing classes, I was making max, and I have no problem saying this, I was making max 40 grand a year. And that was purely custom work, taking 200 to 300 cookies a week, sometimes more if I could. And I was dying. And that was custom work. But if you're doing flash sales and you're able to pump out cookies, you're going to make more.
If you're handling it like a business that is,
and some people don't do customs and just do massive holiday sales.
Yeah.
So there is a way, we talked about it at our holiday sale, is if you are not a holiday person, you guys, there's customers that need cookies during holidays where, like, for example, my customers still have birthdays and I take off all of December. I have no problem saying, hey, other cookiers in my area, who's taking customs, I'll send you. Yeah, there is. So it's just finding that little like area, I guess, that fits and what you want. But I would say that is the only thing that, don't take it offensively.
No.
If somebody is not willing to share.
We are allowed to say no to what we want to share.
Correct.
Everybody's allowed to say no. No is
Yes. And that's
Our
why I don't ever
people-
want to come off as like ungrateful or like, but I'm like, there are some things that I do want to keep to myself, Melissa, and I try and share as much as we can here with you guys.
Yeah. And this also kind of brings me into kind of like our final big topic. I think all of these can be pet peeves to some of us, but this one I think is, I think we all fall victim to it. But so all three of us here are quote unquote content creators, right? The cookie chat itself is purely content. And we do, and it takes a lot of work to do those things, to create highlights, to write descriptive descriptions, to tag all the cookie cutter shops. And we do that because we want to provide information and content out there. If you reach out to somebody, if you ask questions and you take time away from that person who can be doing additional content work because you very quickly want an answer and you don't want to go through like the highlights or read the descriptions, you're wasting, I feel like, what can be a really like great, genuine conversation. Because here's what happens in my opinion. If you read the descriptions, if you read the highlights, you're either going to get the answers to your questions and then you can talk to the person about like whatever it is you're creating based off of that, or you're going to get additional deeper questions and you're going to be able to have more of a genuine discussion with the person. So if somebody reaches out to me and asks a question of like, what marker did you use in that? And it's like clearly labeled and clearly called out, I'm going to answer it. I'm going to say it's this one, but then I'm done. Versus if they're like, hey, I saw that you used this. I had a couple of questions about it. Like, can you give me your input? That is going to lead to so much more of a discussion than anything else. Otherwise, I'm just going to be like, this is a person who like doesn't value like the time or the work. If that, and I know that's not always the case. I know sometimes like I've been guilty of it too. Sometimes you're just moving really fast.
Or like, excited, I should have watched the next slide. I'm so sorry you answered the question. Yes.
We've all done it.
Yes, we all have.
Yeah, we all have. But what are y'all's opinions?
So I think it's so nice, Melissa, that you answer these people because I don't. If you're asking me a question that is clearly in the caption, I'm not responding. I don't have the time, the patience, or anything like that. Eventually what's going to happen is you're going to not get your answer, and then you're going to, if you really want the answer. I also, it comes with DMs. In my bio, I have it written in my bio, don't DM for inquiries. Every day. Every day. And I've gotten to the point now where I no longer answer them. If you really, really, really need these cookies, if you really, really, really need to inquire about these cookies, then you will figure it out. Because I just can't be bothered. I won't even write the message to say, you know, to reach out to my website. Because sometimes people find that to be rude. And B, sometimes they'll continue the conversation like, oh, okay, but I just want, no, I'm not. So if you really want something, because 9 times out of 10, what's going to happen is they're going to comment, what marker did you use? If they really wanted to know, they'll go and read it. 9 times out of 10, it's just a question that they're asking under the thing. And then 5 seconds later, because we've all been equipped through social media, they've forgotten all about that. They have no idea what they're thinking. They don't remember. But if they really want to know, they have no problem I hope you don't mind. I'm kind of brutally honest.
I appreciate it. Are you?
What was that?
Do you know your Enneagram number?
Oh, you need to take it.
You don't?
I have no idea. But this is like when I get on my lives, like this is, if they really, it summarizes boundaries. 100%. Set boundaries. I used to be the person that answered every single thing. And then I'm up until 2 o'clock in the morning decorating cookies and being tired with my kids. I'm not doing it anymore. I just can't. And you're right. It's not, my time is valuable. Everybody's time is valuable. What are we doing?
I think that's the thing that I've gotten to the point of, like, when I was first starting, it was any interaction, all interactions. Like, I appreciate it. And I still really do, but I think the more that Chelsea and I have like put ourselves out there more and more, and just our business experience with everything, it to me, it feels disrespectful at certain points of just like I do the work, and like it's like being the kid who like does the project and then the other kids get the credit for the project, and you're like, well, no, I did it.
There is, I'll share it to the cookie chat, and then also in my stories. If you are still answering every single DM that comes in, I mean, I'm guilty of it. I'm like, people pleaser. So call myself out on it. I have a reel for saving responses, because I do get, same thing, Renee, a lot of people asking about like, hey, I want to place this order. I just type the word order to save response, and I click it, and it says everything that like I'm going to say to somebody, and then it just sends it. Or if they ask like, hey, are you booked? Or hey, how do I find this? I already have auto responses saved where I just click the save message and it sends it off.
Oh, sweet of you.
So I know I have no boundaries.
That's so sweet.
I feel like Renee's my mom, and I'm like, yes, Mom, I need to do this.
You know what? I used to probably do the same thing. I have really gotten to the point now where I want my customer base to like really need to like really want me, and if they aren't willing to put in just the smidgen of work, that means that I'm probably going to have an issue with them later down the line, and I can't do it.
Yeah.
So
I do want to say my little group, we call them Joe babies. I want to thank my wonderful followers. They sometimes, you guys, we are each can be each other's biggest cheerleader and helper. I have a few cookiers that in my comments, when like other cookiers will ask, hey, where is this from? Even though it is tagged, they just have their own conversation. They're like, oh, that cutter's from Sweetly Printed. That cutter's from, like, they answer it for me.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Because some people are just so amazing that way. But
where I've like scrolled through, I've looked at comments and I've seen it, and I have no problem answering it, because we're all in the same boat. Like when it comes to, someone did comment on here, and she's they, I don't know who it is, a few times, and I just want to, it not concerns me, but they're concerned about promoting their business because they're afraid to talk to other cookies, or I don't want anybody to take this as a way as like, don't ever DM your favorite.
Oh yeah, don't. No. I know.
Like this is literally only if you have not done any of the work, or you're just like, talk to us. We have no problem. Like this also goes, someone wrote in the cookie, if anybody's going to CookieCon, in the CookieCon attendee page, that they're, nervous to like talk to their favorite cookiers or whatever. And it's like, holy mo, do you understand that after I get off this call, I have to go change my daughter's diaper? Like, do you understand that, like, I am like,
we're humans.
Like, we are more than happy to talk to you. I think you're going to find that we're all these really nice people that want to talk to you.
I know. I feel like it would make us feel even more awkward if
that happened at the Arizona Cookie meetup. Everyone's like, I feel like I know you because I like have this relationship on parasocial relationship with you, but like I don't know you. It's like, no, but we all work like Melissa and I mean, bless Melissa that I can talk to her all day long. But other than that, it's like we're in our own tunnel by ourselves. Like, hey, no one else wants to talk cookies in my house. So it's an excitement.
You're going to get a bunch of cookiers at CookieCon or whatever, and they have been in a house where nobody really gives a crap about what they do. And you're going to put them all in a room together? Do you think we're not going to want to talk?
Right. We get recharged that way.
You guys are like, I know. And Chelsea and I are just like waiting for like the next CookieCon to come out. We're like, can we go to the next one? So a few people asked if Chelsea and I are going to be. Chelsea and I are not. Renee will be. And also our friends over at Cookie Life Network, if you guys haven't been following them yet too, it's an amazing partner. Well, not partner, I shouldn't say partner, but addition to like Cookie Chat content is Cookie Life Network. So they basically like give you all of like the sales that are going on in the cookie community and classes that are happening and all of that stuff. So they're keeping track of it for you. So you don't, so they will be there. So go over and say hi to them, and Renee will be there, and so many amazing
Well, we
people.
can't wait to know where the next one's going to be because they always announce. So we are like, we're going post because we're stopping everyone going.
Yeah, it'll definitely be posted, and I don't even know if it'll be this year or next year or whatever.
We're waiting on that too.
I know.
Like, is there fall? Is there not? What is it? So we're all with you guys. But Renee, thank you. We know that your time is valuable, and we appreciate you donating your time to us and our amazing communities here.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yes, we could chit chat all day long, you guys. There's so many questions. I feel bad because we can't answer all of them, and when we post this, all the comments go away. So
I know. But guys, this will be uploaded to YouTube within 24 hours. It'll be up over there. So yeah, and keep an eye out we will let you guys know about Patreon and come back on Friday, the 25th of Chelsea's 32 minutes of 32% off cookie chat merch over at Domestic Cookie. So
I'm Melissa with Rolling in the Dough.
Oh, and I'm Renee with Sweet Cheeks.
And
your icing be shiny and crater free. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.